Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, listeners. Today, Natasha and I are going to talk about travel, and we've done a lot of it. So we're going to go
Yes.
continent by continent, but let's first start with space travel. Would you do it if you had the opportunity?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you been following the Jeffy Bezos 8-minute launch into supposed space?
Well, I think when Katy Perry came down to Earth and kissed the Earth,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, or I'm hoping, it wasn't a case of I'm finally back on Earth after all these minutes in space.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was more a case of I'm so glad I didn't blow up in space.
Well, maybe, or maybe it was performance. Just to let you know what's on Twitter today, there is cell phone camera footage of the top of the spaceship landing, and the door is open. And a technician ran and closed the door so that Jeff Bezos could famously take his big metal bar and open the door again in order to, you know, welcome them back, right? Door was open. And several journalists have been running the footage of the supposed space launch through AI and said, well, the footage is AI. And the door was open when they landed. This may have all been faked, which after 11 minutes kissing the earth, that's a bit much, don't you think?
Listen, considering the number of spaceships that have blown up lately, my concern in going in a spaceship would not be would be let's hope this flight lasts more than 7 seconds.
Okay, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I would not do it. Whether it was a legit spaceship or a fake little journey to satisfy a billionaire's ego, I just wouldn't participate. That's not
Oh,
interesting to me.
I wouldn't participate in the ones they're doing now.
Okay,
But if space travel was a thing, yeah, man.
I'm not sure. Well, okay. Let's talk about the planet Earth. All right, politics are terrible. The world is in rotten shape. There's the potential for war. There's a genocide and wars going on everywhere. Now Trump is bombing the Houthis. That's covered. Done. All right. Let's talk about the good times. I know that there are people who are hesitant to travel to the US. And here's what I would say to you. Don't be. Um, they're not picking up tourists and deporting them at the moment. And when you don't travel to, maybe you love Florida or you love New Orleans, you're hurting the small businesses in that region. You're not really hurting Donald Trump. He doesn't know that you're not traveling. He doesn't care. He has enough money, and it's immaterial to him whether you go
Okay.
one place or another.
Okay. Did you hear what you just said?
Yeah.
For the moment.
Yeah. Well, if that changes, then I would say don't travel. I said
Yeah,
for the
but
moment because things are changing so rapidly.
for the moment, for the moment, there have been a number of cases of people. Okay, not an enormous amount, I'll grant you. We could probably count them on a couple of hands. But there have been cases of um, people sent back. And I don't want to be mean, but the fact that there was even one sent back is
Were they visa
unacceptable.
issues or were they sent back for BS reasons? Because what I read, and it could be wrong because we know how the media is, there were visa issues in the cases of the people being sent back.
Well, I don't know. What I do know is that I read every day. I read today in history. You know
Right.
what happened today in history. And yesterday in history, in 19 something, beginning of the 1900s, There were more than 11,000 people processed at Ellis Island.
Hmm.
These were people who, at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century, came to the United States. Bring us your poor, your whatever, whatever, whatever. These were people who saw the United States as what it was, a land of opportunity. Well, 100 years later, that's not it. And
Well,
we have
I'm not
all
sure that
the
it ever was.
well, it was better than where they were coming from, where they were being exterminated.
Well, they weren't always being exterminated. There were people who came over because of we now know it was caused by the English, but the potato famine, etc. But Ellis Island was a huge hub for sex trafficking. If you came over as a single woman, then they determined you were at risk of moral corruption if you were allowed on your own, if you didn't have close family or a husband or someone, a male, to claim you. They sold women into prostitution right and left from Ellis Island. Single women who came over were forced into brothels, or they refused to release them. They were going to deport them if they didn't accept their treatment at a brothel. So there were a lot of really bad things that went on, including some children who were sold, taken from their parents and sold to people who wanted kids. There was a lot going on at Ellis Island that wasn't great. So even though America was more of a land of opportunity, you had to have you had to have a male relative to meet you, or a job already arranged, which was rare for females at that time. In addition, you needed a guarantee of housing from a church or charity group. Women were held for their own good or released to brothels for their own good to rescue them. So for women, it was a pretty shitty place, or they were forced into marriage.
Well, I don't want to be mean, but life for women at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century was pretty shitty everywhere.
Oh, I would agree. Yes. But I'm just pointing out that Ellis Island wasn't always what we try
No.
to
I didn't
imagine it
mean
to
it
be.
like that. I didn't mean it like that. I have no idea what happened in Ellis Island, and I don't really care what happened in Ellis Island. The point is, those rednecks in Alabama and all these places, like we were watching on television yesterday, who, true red blooded American, go back 3, 4 generations. You're not American, you know. So all these American going around saying, you know, get rid of immigrants. You wouldn't be here if we'd gotten rid of immigrants.
No, absolutely not. I, I'm not a fan of that kind of rhetoric at all, anywhere that it comes from, whether it comes from Germany, and we have Germans that are like that, or
For
America, or
immigration, yeah.
anywhere. What you have to do with immigrants is welcome them into your lives, homes, and lifestyles. When immigrants are discriminated against, they form little hubs and they kind of stay away from the society that they should be a part of. When they are welcomed in, they become a part of that. And in a couple of generations, you can't tell one from another. And that's what happened in America for a time. But there was discrimination, yes, Irish, Italian, etc. But still, people did manage in a couple of generations to become American. Um, yeah, you have to welcome them in. If you don't welcome them, you're creating the problem.
But those redneck MAGAs, I hesitate to use the word MAGAs or maggots, it's kind of close. They came from Western European descendants.
Yeah.
So, in other words, white.
Largely, yes.
Yes. So integration wasn't that difficult. And but I have I had to ask Adam to turn the television off yesterday because there was a program. Was it Alabama, sweetheart? Tennessee? Oh, well, it was Tennessee. I was close enough. And they were talking, and they were such uneducated things that it was, I almost threw something at the television.
Was it the news or what was it?
No, it was a German program that was talking about the rednecks Americans.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And yeah, and it's just I can't. I can't.
Now, well, let's focus on the fun side of travel because we're both very well traveled. I will name a continent. You tell me the countries you've been to in that continent and tell me a little bit about it, whether it was food or a story you remember, and then you get to name the next continent. So
Okay,
for
go ahead.
you, the continent is Africa.
Ah, that is by far my worst continent. I've only ever been to Morocco.
That's okay. Tell me about him.
We went there for a week in 91.
Wow. It's been a while.
I almost got traded in for 2 camels and 10 sheep, but whatever. Um, we rented a car and went to Ouarzazate from Marrakesh. And so you go over the mountains. And we stopped in a place and where there was the restaurant, which I definitely have to put in quotes, on one side of the street, and a few barrels and planks of woods for the tables on the other side of the street. And we both ordered a tagine. And it came with the little hat on the plate, as it does. And when we opened the little hat, a large number of blue-bottle fly came out.
Wow.
And we looked at each other, shrugged our shoulders, and ate it.
Probably didn't hurt you.
Listen, a bit more protein, a bit less protein, who's counting? And it was very good, thank you very much.
Well, my best meal in Marrakesh was in the central, souk market,
Yeah.
and it was a plate of lamb. Then we added salt and cumin to it from Shakers and ate it with flatbread, and it was the most delicious lamb I'd ever had. And I asked what the cut was. And this guy goes with a fork and lifts a big head out of a pot. They had been boiling lamb's heads,
Oh,
sheep's heads. And I have to say, that would be the first meal I would want if I went back there.
we were in the souk, which I was astounded at. And the most interesting thing for me in the souk was the fact that I don't have a sense of smell.
Right.
So it was all visual. All those piles of spices. It was all visual. It was all the colors because, the smell. And that was one of the rare times I regretted not having a sense of smell. But there's this old man who came over and called us over, and we followed him. And he took us in a back alley and made mint tea for us. It was the most amazing mint tea. We've never been able to reproduce it. And I almost kidnapped and brought back home what did I kidnap and bring back home, Bibi? It wasn't a lizard, a chameleon.
Oh, yes. We used to have those in New Orleans. They change color depending on where they're walking.
It
Yeah.
was a baby chameleon, and it was the cutest thing you've ever seen. I wanted to take it home. We stayed in a hotel, which was all right, except for the piped music the whole day long, which was dreadful. outside, you know.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of piped music unless it's really worth listening to. A lot of it is just dreadful elevator style.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there was this gorgeous place. I'm not in Sevilla right now. I'm in Los Boliches, my little beach community, and you may hear a dog snoring behind me because he's been running on the beach all morning and he's exhausted.
Can I say it looks absolutely amazing where you are?
If I were to go outside, I would turn very brown very quickly. And I will as soon as we finish recording, because this town is just incredible. I've been coming here for a quarter of a century. My friend Danny in New York introduced me to this. So we won't go to Europe yet because we both traveled all of Europe, but that's where I am right now. So Africa, give me a continent.
Oh, you know, one that I haven't been to. So let's see if you've been to it. Oceania, as in Australia and all these places.
Oh, yes, I've absolutely been to Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't.
New Guinea, some of the islands there. Where else? The Hut Islands, they're called, which are, yeah. So those are my three places in Oceania, New Guinea, Australia, and New Zealand. And when I went to Australia for the first time, it was 1999. And I immediately applied for a visa. I wanted to live there so badly. It reminded me, now it doesn't, now it's become a dystopian nightmare like the rest of the world, but it reminded me of what the US might have been if it hadn't taken so many wrong turns. It was so safe and so crime-free and so clean and so comfortable. And I remember seeing the coral reefs and I want to say seafood marine life when I went snorkeling and diving. Even though I got a coral spawn infection, even the doctor was completely refreshing, because I was in the US where you go to the doctor, here's a fortune for my copay, here's a fortune for my insurance, you know, you pay for everything, literally constantly. So I went to a doctor, I got a coral spawn infection after diving, and my leg was getting really badly swollen. And I went to a doctor in Turtle Bay, and this guy walks into the room wearing a pair of shorts and what we call a wife beater t-shirt and a pair of flip-flops. And he goes, "Oh, how you got a mucky foot?" And he sits down and plops my foot on his lap. And I said, "Is the doctor coming? What, do I have to wear a white coat and act like an asshole to be a doctor? It's Saturday, mate. I'm only here for 4 hours." And he took a look at it, asked me if I'd been diving. Yes, classic coral spawn infection. So he put me on intravenous antibiotics for 1 hour. He said, "This should knock it out. And then we'll send you a Z-Pack 3 days home." I said, "So no sun, no alcohol?" "No, these are Aussie antibiotics. Extra sun, extra alcohol." And I went to pay, and she goes, "What?" And I said, how much?" And she said, we don't have a way to take money." And I said, "You don't have a way to take money?" "No." And I said, "Well, I'm not covered under your health insurance. I'm a tourist." And she goes, "Well, you covered it today because we have no way to take your money. So have a good day. Go to the pharmacy." I went to the pharmacy with my prescription, picked up my Z-Pack, cost nothing. Went to the hotel and, kept my leg up for the day. The swelling after the intravenous antibiotics started to decrease very rapidly. They clearly had the right antibiotic for the coral spawn. And the next day at breakfast, it's almost undetectable. And I'm going to start 3 days of oral antibiotics. I take the first one, and the doctor comes plopping in. And he says, "I wanted to check on your foot." And I said, "What?" "Here's the truth. Where you're staying has got a great pool and a great beach. But if I check on you, I get to use both for free." And
check, by all
so he
means.
checked my foot, said, "This is it. You're not in any danger. Take the 3 days of antibiotics. You'll be fine." I did. I was. And then he went swimming. Um, it was so completely different. And healthcare was part of the reason why I liked it, just because things were casual and friendly and not mercenary feeling. And the food at the time, they were running ads on Australian TV of obese people waddling out of McDonald's saying, "Down ate the American diet, ate the Aussie diet." And they showed, shrimp and vegetables on a plate. And I have to say, the Aussie diet was incredible. Even the Aboriginal Aussie diet. I had kangaroo a few times, which I hear breed like rats, and they would be a very good meat source if we decide to keep eating meat around the world.
Um, I ate kangaroo at the Australian restaurant on Potsdamer Platz.
How'd you like it?
Loved it.
I did too.
Yeah. And Clara absolutely adores it.
Yeah. When I had the cats, I used to be able to, at Lidl, they don't carry it anymore for some reason. They had frozen kangaroo at the Lidl on Warschauer Strasse underneath the station. And the cats adored kangaroo. It was their favorite meat. So I would buy it for me and end up feeding it all to them because they went so crazy for it.
Yeah. What did I try recently? Oh, I went to a Chinese restaurant here and had duck's tongue.
Oh, that's my favorite. You eat them off the bone? Or did they debone them for you?
Ah, you were meant to debone it?
There's little, well, was there a
Yeah.
bone inside the tongue?
Yeah, I ate the whole thing.
Okay. Some people will have stomach pain from that. They're kind of sharp. Normally, you pick it up by the bone at the edge of the tongue and you slide the meat off, leaving the bones behind.
Okay, so I'll know for next time.
But if it didn't hurt you and you weren't in any pain, then you managed to digest them, and that's okay.
It wasn't that memorable.
It wasn't memorable? Oh, then you didn't have good ones.
No, I probably didn't.
When I was in Hong Kong, I had duck tongue that were so incredible. I will never forget them.
It reminded me a little bit of snails, as in rubber, with
Uh,
grisly bits and bones.
That is not a good duck tongue. No, they should remind you of the most succulent duck breast you've ever had.
Oh my God, they did not.
They were probably frozen, shipped a long way. In Hong Kong, I ordered a dish that it's translated to feet and tongues, and it was duck feet and duck tongues. The duck feet had been braised for a long time in a ginger and garlic stock and then baked until they were crisp on the outside or roast. And the duck tongue had been braised in 5-spice and soy. And it was the most incredible meal.
Okay, not the same experience.
Okay.
But I wanted to try it because, there's a new Chinese restaurant down the road on Knesebeckstraße, and
Right.
they do century-old egg. So I had some.
Well, they're not really a century old, but yeah, they're aged.
Yeah.
They're aged in pride. Yeah. I'm sorry, my
Yeah,
nose
yeah.
itches today.
Yeah.
I
So
love
I tried it,
I love century eggs. The only egg dish I don't like is balut.
I don't know what that is.
That is fermented duck embryo. Yeah, not exciting. It kind of gross. Feathers, bones, you eat everything, and
Oh gosh.
yeah,
Okay.
that's it. All right. Speaking of which, now it's my turn. Oceania. All right, you know where I've been. Asia. Where have you been in Asia?
Oh, India, Thailand, and Hong Kong. Oh,
Okay.
actually, Kowloon. So China.
China. What did you think of China?
It was very populated.
Yes. What year were you there?
1991.
Okay. In the 2000s, China changed rapidly. And it's essentially rebuilt from what it was. They've kept the old neighborhoods intact, but they built these incredible modern cities I was there in, let's see, what was 7 years ago? I was there in 2018 and I was blown away by China. And of course, I had to ask people about this social credit system, that keeps them from buying food and they can't leave the country. And everybody laughed at me and said, it's only propaganda in America. We don't have such a thing. We use cash. We can buy food. Of course, we can buy food. You don't need to have a card. They don't control your bank. It's nonsense. So, and I still am reading about this in the US press, this social credit system. I think that the social credit system may be partly true, but largely made up in order to get the US ready for such a thing. In other words, we're going to be as efficient as China, and we're going to institute this because I hear that Trump wants to go with an all digital currency. So he may be the one to roll this out. And of course, his supporters support everything he does.
I have a very sad story about
Okay.
China. Well, not that sad, but to me, it was sad.
Mhm.
It was 1991, and the big fashion was wooden watches.
Yeah.
And I bought myself a wooden watch the day before, the day we were leaving Kowloon, and we were going to Bangkok, of which I have amazing memories. I think I spoke about that before, but since you put me on the spot, I'll say it again. Anyway, that wooden watch. So we get to Bangkok and we go stay with a friend before we go to the our hotel, which was the TT guest house. And I left my watch on the bedside table, so I had that watch for just under 24 hours.
24 hours. That's not long.
No, I was very sad about that.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway,
I remember seeing wooden watches, but I never had one.
yeah, I did. I did. So Bangkok introduced TT Guest House introduced me to two things. One
Mhm.
I already knew about, but not like they made it. The other one was a brand new experience. The one I knew about was orange juice.
Yeah.
I'd never had orange juice like that. It was fresh pressed,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't know where they got their oranges, but I mean, I think they came off the tree from concentrate because I've never had orange juice like that. I mean, it was amazing. And the second thing that they introduced me to was pad thai.
Okay.
And pad thai is amazing. Uh, that's basically what you could eat at the guest house. Fresh orange juice and pad thai.
I uh I asked them to make the pad thai without sugar because sugar is used in pad thai. It's a little bit sweet. And they always look at me like I have two heads. Only spice, no sugar. It won't be balanced. I've been to Thailand four times. And it's just always a big to do. But then they do it and it's incredible. It's not burn your mouth spicy because you can't stand that, but you can really taste the ginger and the garlic and all of the other flavors when the sugar is removed. So sugar-free pad thai is a revelation. I think it's 1,000 times better than the version they're doing now. Then being an old kind of recipe buff, I went to old cookbooks and it didn't used to have sugar. The sugar came at around 1980. That's when they started adding sweet to pad thai. And of course, the sugar consumption or sweet consumption worldwide from the 80s to today has gone so high. And obesity and everything that goes with it has happened as a result. But it's something that they added, just like they've added it to so many things. Pretzels in Germany now have sugar, and they never used to.
Wow. Another story about Thailand is I had a pair of blue suede shoes.
Ooh, I like those. I have a pair.
Yeah. Well, not what happened to me because we had a massive unexpected downpour.
Right.
And of course, as you know, in Thailand, you take your shoes off when you come into the place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I did. I had blue feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then the other place that I went to in Asia was India. But the
Amazing country.
difference is, whereas China and Thailand was done on a shoestring,
Right.
India was not. It was our honeymoon.
Okay.
So we stayed at the Lake Palace Hotel in Udaipur. We stayed at the Uman Bawan Palace Hotel in um, Jodhpur. We stayed in the room that Prince Charles had been staying in Jaipur,
Hmm.
and we went to Jaisalmer and had a nice place there. And then we ended up with Delhi and had a nice place there. So that was not at all done on a shoestring. But what I did admire about India was the flights. We had one inter-country flight, and it was like a bus. There were people standing in the aisle on the
Really?
flight. Yeah,
On an airplane.
yeah.
That's,
There,
well, I
there.
mean, maybe it's legal in India, but it's not legal in much of the world.
I'm guessing it probably wasn't. That was 1993.
Because I
And
know
yeah,
if it was legal, Ryanair would do it.
exactly. So there were people standing in the aisle for the whole flight.
That's not good at all.
No, that was
Um,
rather interesting.
did they have something to hang on to or?
I'm not sure. Oh, and we started look at that. I forgot two countries I'd gone to. We started the honeymoon in the Maldives and then
Ah,
went to Sri Lanka. Now, we bought ourselves economy class to the Maldives,
mhm.
because we're not crazy. Well, my in laws upgraded us to business as a surprise. And the airline upgraded us to first class because it was our honeymoon.
Mhm.
And
They don't do that anymore, but
yeah, the first stretch was from London to Dubai. And then from Dubai to Colombo, I think, and then Colombo to Mate. And so halfway through the flight from London to Dubai, they said, "We understand you're on your honeymoon."
mhm.
And we said, "Yes." And they brought out this huge cream cake. I mean, feeds 10 easily.
Wow.
And oh, we were overwhelmed. It was wonderful and everything. And we had some, of course. And we took it with us when we got to Dubai. But the problem is, try getting rid of a box of cake in Dubai airport.
Nobody's gonna take it.
Well, I mean, the minute we left it somewhere, we had a security saying, "You forgot this." Anyways, I think Adam managed to shove it down the toilet or something finally, because we had 3/4 of the cake left and we were going to Sri Lanka. So,
They had to get rid of it.
yeah. So then we take the flight from Dubai to Colombo. And halfway through the flight, they say, "We understand you're on your honeymoon."
Oh
It was
no.
Emirates Airline. And we said yes. And they produced the same cake, which we were, it was nice. It was nice. We had a piece. We had a
They
piece.
probably keep cakes like this in the freezer for every honeymoon.
Indeed. So we had a piece. It was nice. No, don't lick the knife, you witnit. The cat's licking the knife, the bread knife. Um,
No.
no, don't lick the butter either, you witnit. Oh, anyway.
You
So
okay? Sorry,
it
Mila
was
was having a moment. Go on.
me lose what, dear?
Mila was having a moment. I had to turn around, make sure he's all right. Okay.
So, but on the other hand, you would be surprised how easy it was to get rid of a box of cake in Colombo.
Yeah, depends on where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that one we just got off and left it there and turned around and it was gone.
Yeah.
And then we took a flight from Colombo to Mate. And halfway through the flight, they say, "We understand you're on your honeymoon."
Oh no.
And we looked at each other and both said, "Oh no, we've been married for years." So we never got
Just
a cake.
like the cake.
Yeah. Another thing that was amazing and that I've never had again on that Emirate flight was the
Mhm.
coffee.
Okay, they do have good coffee. I've only flown them once, but the coffee was great.
I have no idea what it was, but it was the most amazing taste, flavor, unbelievable.
It's Arabic coffee. It's grown in Saudi Arabia.
I'm
The
sure.
plantations, yeah. And it's some of the best coffee I've ever had. When I was in Saudi, I I drink coffee like crazy.
In Sri Lanka, we were booked for a week. We left after 5 days
Why?
because we were on an island whose name escapes me now. And there were three restaurants on that island. There was the resort restaurant where we had some type of a congealed pasta meal that where the pasta had obviously been cooked to oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Burger King and there was a Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
And there was absolutely no, I had visions of fresh fruits, grilled fish. I mean,
Yeah.
we went scuba diving. We took paddy courses to go diving, and then we went scuba diving. We had taken them before we left on our honeymoon, the paddy license. But
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing like, and fish, my God, when you went into the water, you almost stepped on a fish.
I know. I used to have that experience in the Dominican Republic.
And no fish to be eaten. So after 5 nights of Chinese food, um, we decided we'd had enough. And
Okay.
so we left.
It's interesting. The Dominican has fish like that, and you can get fish, but you pretty much have to cook it at home. If you go out, they serve pork. It's
Yeah.
pork, 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 empanadas, deep fried this, deep fried that, hamburgers, pizza. But I could go to the local fisherman and just buy fish for what was, oh, almost done. Keep talking. 1 second.
Yeah, no problem, dear. So yeah, so that was it was beautiful. The sea was amazing. The service was, we had a little bungalow and every night they prepared our bed with little flowers on it and outside the bungalow. Hello, Pudsey, you all right?
I don't know. He's been making funny noises. He
Oh,
may have eaten something. You know how dogs can get things on the street that don't always make them happy?
yeah.
Uh, so I figure my lap is the safest place because I can feel if something's going on.
Yes. And so it was a lovely bungalow, and outside on the beach in front of the bungalow, there were a couple of chaises longues, and it really was beautiful. And of course, there was the fluorescent whatever plankton that came up to the beach, and all this was,
Oh, I love
magical.
those. Have you
Exactly.
gone swimming in that magic water?
Yeah, all this was fabulous. The only issue, of course, was 5 nights of Chinese food.
I, yeah, I get it. The food, it's interesting that certain countries that have, for instance, have you been to Haiti at all?
No.
In Haiti, all of the resorts have great seafood. All of the people who are there could fish. They don't. They don't. They eat rice, beans, chicken, or pork. And it's it's the Dominican Republic and Haiti are on the same island, but they're
I know
absolutely opposite. The
they
Dominican
are.
Republic, you spit a seed and a watermelon patch grows, and you share watermelon with your neighbors. You buy a chicken because there's only electricity for a few hours a day. You share the chicken with people so that there's no waste. It's a very sharing group of people. I mean, people were offering me food wherever I went. Come in, we are having, come in, we are having, come in, we are having. We have eggs from the backyard. Come in, come in. And you go to Haiti, where I did, and it's the opposite. If you have a chicken, they will kill you. They will take your chicken. They will run with your chicken. Someone will kill them and take their chicken. After 3 days, when the chicken is spoiled, the final person to have it will cook it, eat it, and get sick. I don't know what happened to that country. I think years of colonialization and all of the other things that went on, but it is brutal.
Yeah,
I never
I know.
felt safe in the Dominican. I always felt unsafe at Haiti.
So, my turn. It's not entirely a continent at all, but it's
Okay.
somewhere that I've never been. The Caribbeans.
Oh yeah, I've been there, of course.
Yeah. So tell us about it.
Well, I lived in the Caribbean, of course, in the Dominican Republic. And what is really interesting about it is that most of the best of the island is never seen by tourists. In the Dominican Republic, most tourists go to all-inclusive resorts, and they may leave for a day and have lunch or a coffee in Santo Domingo, which is a very interesting old Spanish colonial style town. But they don't go terribly far. But when you go to the north of the island, which is where I was working, and you go to these little beaches, I had private beaches more times than I could count. And it's a really interesting sort of transit system. You don't have an app for anything. If you want to ride, I think it was 50 pesos, which is, about 5 cents or something in US dollars. You just go to the road and you hold your hand up, and anybody with a motorcycle and an extra helmet will stop, take you in the direction they're going to wherever you want to go, and you pay very, very little for it. Again, that's sort of the sharing economy sort of thing, or people will pick you up on a car. My cats used to ride on the back of people's scooters just because they enjoyed it. So I was always having someone at the end of the day return my cats to me at the resort. So they would go into town and hang out at Rebecca Market or the photo bar, or wherever, and they'd come back with me. My transit was a horse.
That's nice.
I rode a horse into town with big saddlebags for the purchases at Rebecca Market. We grew much of the food, and what we did not grow, we had to make. I learned to make mozzarella cheese, ricotta cheese, a number of different things that were just not available because it's not a cheese culture. And the guests at the resort wanted cheese. They would request something that had cheese. I had to make it. So it was very, very different. And the beef was the best I've ever had anywhere in my life. It was all grass fed because what else would they feed it? It was all raised naturally because what else would they give it? I think the entire island is probably organic. I never saw a hint of a pesticide anywhere.
Sounds pretty good.
I used to say if I ever retired, I'd want to retire there, but that was before I knew Spain so well. So now it's confusing. Then there's Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico is another incredible island in the Caribbean. Barbados, another one. Puerto Rico, I had a wonderful time. There's an island surrounded by the bioluminescent water, and you go for these night swims and the water lights around you, which is just the coolest thing ever. I love that. And I'm not a big fan of jumping into the ocean at night, but for that water, I was willing to do it. And there on that island, we ate only seafood. The catch of the day was the dinner at the hotel, period. That's it.
I remember when that's what Juar was like. You see, we started going to Juar. Well, actually, my sisters first went to Juar Island in Croatia
Mhm.
in 1980. And throughout the 80s and early 90s, we were at Juara all the time, and it was not really touristy at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, a few Germans, but not really that touristy at all. And you mostly ate fish and tomatoes because that's
Okay.
what there was, and figs
Mm-hmm.
because that's what there was. And then Caroline of Monaco went there, and
Oh.
Spielberg went there. And now it's a lot like Saint Tropez was in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It is as touristy as it comes, which is fabulous for the island. Don't get me wrong. At least we have the incredible advantage that for the town of Juar itself, the council has been quite rigid in not allowing hotels to be built, or
Okay.
resorts to be built. And also, it's illegal to walk around town in your bathing suit. Okay. The fines are rather steep. And we still love going to Juar.
Mm-hmm.
My sister married a guy from there and then divorced, but at least she has 2 kids out of there. My little sister is throwing her 60th birthday party there in July.
Nice.
Exactly. But it's not the Juar we knew at all. And I'm delighted for it because it's made it an unbelievable. It is the number one place to go to in Croatia after Dubrovnik, but Dubrovnik is because of uh, Game of Thrones
Mm-hmm.
that they used it for filming, and they actually
Right.
have a
So
Game
now
of
it's got
Thrones there.
lots of people coming, right?
Yeah, but Juar is incredible, and when we go, we still go to some of our old places, and we do go to the center of town, but not as often as we used to. But I digress. I digressed because in Juar we used to eat fresh fish.
I love it. But
Oh, I've lost you.
lost me?
Yeah,
Can't hear me?
I don't have any sound.
Uh, uh, do you have sound now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Um, I'm in Los Boliches right now, which is famous for its clams.
Oh, God, that's nice. It's like in Portugal.
Yeah, I love clams. I love clams and cuttlefish and calamari and all of that. Although I had a very funny, almost otherworldly experience last night. I
Oh,
I first started coming to Los Boliches with my friends Josephine and Danny, both of whom are now dead. And
oh, damn.
after what? You were there? What's
Yeah,
going on?
I'm
Okay.
nothing, nothing, nothing. I
Okay.
said, oh, damn, that your friends are dead.
Well, it's been a few years, but yeah, they Danny lived to be 102 and Josephine lived to be 100. So they did
Okay.
okay. But we came every year to Las Boliches, and they introduced me to all their friends. I got to know the town very, very well. And I came here last night, and I'm starting to hear Danny's voice in my head. Um, and so I said, I'm on the phone. I said, I'm in Funhero, and he goes, no, kid, Funherola. How many times I got to tell you? And it felt like he was right in my ear. I didn't eat anything before leaving in the morning because I was supposed to have a train at 12:30. I was going to be here by 2:30. I figured that was time. Well, travel, as you know, doesn't always work out the way you think it will. And I didn't have anything to eat. I got here, fed Milo, took him for a run on the beach, and suddenly it was 7 p.m. And my blood sugar was a little bit. So I heard Daddy's voice make, get something to eat, kid. And I said, I don't know what to eat. Yeah, that's what you're like when your blood sugar's low. Keep walking, 2 more blocks, and it's the best burger you ever had. Don't you remember? I didn't remember. He goes, that's all right. I'll tell the dog. This is what I'm hearing in my head. I'll tell the dog, best burger I'd ever had. No idea what he was talking about, but Milu stopped at this little bakery restaurant, just stopped like that and started to drink water out of the bowl. And I looked at the menu and it was burgers with the local beef. So I went in and I ordered one because I was getting ready to pass out. And they brought it pretty quickly. Best burger I've ever had.
You see,
And
he was right.
and then I remembered eating there about 23 years ago. And I asked the waitress how old the place was, 27 years. Oh my gosh. Uh, it makes me wonder sometimes, is it my memory and my strong connection to Danny that's feeding me and my brain has a little partition, or is there some connection to another world? Last night, it felt like there was some connection to another world, especially when Milu stopped dead, sat down right in front of the place. I'll tell the dog.
Yeah, he did. And it was.
So anyway, it was incredible. I normally never eat burgers when I'm here. I go only for the seafood. But I was so hungry that it perfectly hit the spot. Now I can eat clams every day. Um, I'm not a big burger person. Isn't that funny?
No, me neither.
I rarely ever have one, about once every year or two.
Hmm. No, I'm not on the rare times that I do go to McDonald's,
Oh, I've never been to McDonald's. That's disgusting.
I have a fillet of fish.
Don't go to McDonald's. That's not even food.
Well, the fillet of fish actually looks like fish. It has the little slices like fish.
Right, but it's not sliced fish. You know that, right?
Well, it tastes like fish.
Well, I mean, it starts as fish, but it's several varieties of fish, including Alaskan pollock. They could just use a piece of the fillet, but instead of doing that, they take it apart, they bleach it so that it will have a very white color. They bathe it, then they reassemble it into those patties that also contain sugar and canola oil, and then they deep fry it in even worse oil. So that's your fillet of fish. And they put the sugary mayonnaise with the relish in it on the bun, and they put sugar in the bun. You're having as much sugar as a Snickers bar if you have 2 fillet of fish.
Ah, well, never mind.
Yeah, I think McDonald's should just be put out of business worldwide. The planet would be healthier. Like I said earlier, eat the Aussie diet, seafood and veg.
Um, if all those fast food places, except for the tacos at Taco Bell, were put out of business, that would be good. We still don't have a Taco Bell in Berlin, but it is coming.
They've been saying that since August. It was going to open August of last year.
Yeah, but I'm hopeful. They have the best tacos in the world.
I would not describe them as the best tacos in the world.
Not
Yeah.
even in the top 3,000, says Carl.
Well, here's the thing with Taco Bell. I didn't taste Taco Bell till I was about 40 years old.
But
Um,
the tacos, I don't know.
no, I won't say I didn't like it, but I was writing for the Huffington Post and doing a lot of travel and food writing. Big surprise. And they gave me an assignment because someone in the office found out that I'd never tasted any fast food. I'd never tasted McDonald's or any of this stuff. My mother never allowed us to eat it. I think once when I was a kid, we got H salt fish and chips. And once when I did PBS Fun Drive, I tasted a piece of Domino's. That was my entire experience with fast food. And I've reached the age of 40. And they said, oh, you have to do it. So they took someone with me to be sure that I ate it. And they told me I could not talk about the nutrition of it, only the taste, right? I tried McDonald's. I almost threw up. I've never in my life had anything so vile. It didn't even taste like food to me. I tried Papa John's, same reaction. I had this reaction to Subway. Oh my God, tastes like plastic. It was horrible. But then I went to Taco Bell and I loved it. Taste wise, health wise, no. But that was my only experience with Taco Bell. I did love it. I loved the half-pound burrito, which is no longer on the menu, which was just beans and meat and cheese in a twice steamed tortilla. Incredible taste. And I loved the regular crispy taco. I loved it. I love both of them.
Yeah, the taco. I mean, I'm sure you'll tell me that in the shell, the shell isn't healthy, the meat isn't healthy, but the rest being tomato, salad, and grated cheese could hardly go wrong.
Well, no, because that salad is put in a bleach wash and then given a preservative so that it stays fresh and crisp and doesn't go brown on you. And it's pre-cut in a central area and is probably a good month old before you ever get it. The tomato, however, is fresh.
Well, that's something.
And when you get it in Berlin, it will be much healthier than it would be in the US. I'll tell you why. They can't use the toxic GMO corn in Berlin. They have to use natural corn. They're not allowed to use the fake meat substance. It has to be beef. They do use a little bit of oat in their mix, but it's mostly beef and seasoning. So it will be a completely different animal. Many people think it tastes better in the US because in the US it has a ton of MSG and higher sodium. So I don't. Again, I
Oh,
would, yes, I would definitely get another taco at Taco Bell. I would. So if it ever opens in Berlin, I'll go there for a taco with you.
you won't let me use my phone. So can you have a look as to if there's any news about Taco Bell in Berlin?
Sure. I can, because I keep my computer open.
Yeah.
I can just type it in and go for it. All right. When is Taco Bell in Berlin opening? Was originally slated for summer 24. It's expected to open in winter 2025. The franchise rights are held by BS Holding, who has planned to launch 150 Taco Bell across the country, starting with Berlin and expanding to cities like Frankfurt. Right now, it's only in one U.S. military base in Wiesbaden. The problem with the opening has been getting approval for the food, as much of what is utilized in the U.S. is illegal in Europe, and they have to go with approved sources.
So there we go.
Yeah.
You know, we were doing continents
Yes, we were, and we got off on Taco Bell. But go on.
and we got
Let's
off on Taco Bell. So, pardon, I'm going to sneeze. Talk.
Okay, I will talk while you sneeze. I've been sneezing all day because it's really heavy allergy season. This is
Yes.
live, folks. We have no cough or sneeze button. We just put it out there. Whatever happens, happens, including a dog who sounded like he was going to be sick and wasn't, thank goodness. What have you got
I
there?
bought this Boots allergy relief nose spray for allergy relief.
Right?
And I have to say it works amazingly.
Huh. So
Yeah.
you squirt it up your nose?
Yeah. And I'd lost it for a while and I found it at the bottom of an old bag that I was folding up. And it's absolutely amazing. And
Mhm.
the thing in it is something called fluticasone propionate.
Oh, yeah. It's a steroid that reduces the inflammation and it guards against the allergens. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the US, that's a prescription drug. My copay on that when I used to get it was 85 US dollars when that was more than 10 years ago.
Fudge.
Yeah, that was my copay. What did you pay for it at Boots? $3.99?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the leaves are coming out here. They're not completely out, although it seriously, the ones that are in the sun on the other side of the road are more out than the ones that are more in the street. But the leaves are finally coming out. And yesterday, here, it was like 26 degrees.
Really?
It's gone down and it won't go back up again until sometimes in May or June.
No, not it'll be May, not June.
Well, I don't know, but it's certainly not hitting the 20s again for the foreseeable future.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna look to see what it's gonna do. And just so people know, the 20s means the 70s if you're in the US.
26 probably hits the 80s.
Does it hit the 80s? Okay. Um,
Yeah,
you're
it would.
supposed to be next week in the high 60s.
Yeah, so cold. I wasn't born yesterday.
Yeah, so cold.
Yeah,
Yeah, anything under 70 is cold to me, but you like winter.
yeah, in winter.
You like
Okay,
winter.
and
Uh,
we've had one here since September, so
and
enough is enough. Okay, they're talking about like the hottest March ever that we've had. Well, they've obviously haven't been in Berlin because I can assure you it wasn't the hottest March ever in Berlin. We've had, for the first time that I can remember, we've had lousy weather since September here.
um,
I'm sick of it.
no, last year had a nice September.
We came back. Oh, when did we come back in September or
No,
later? I
back
think
in
we came
October.
back.
You came back in October. I remember.
Oh, well, then from October on, it was crap.
Yes, it was. It was cold from October on, but it was nice in September.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, well, we came back on the 24th of September.
Okay, the end of the month. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And from then on it was crap. Sorry, it was crap.
Yeah, it
And now
was.
we've
October was miserable. No question.
and we've had it since then. And okay, so we've had a couple of yesterday was nice. I think it was nice Monday or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something. Yeah, it was nice. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that's it.
Mhm.
And I'm sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be too. I'm glad I'm not there. You know, I'm just yeah, I'm glad I'm not there. Berlin can have a miserable winter and spring. I
You
hope that
know,
it's
we have winter tires on, okay, because it's the law.
right.
So we have winter tires on, and you can't take winter tires off until it is legally above 10 degrees at night.
Okay.
Okay. And 10, 9, 6 on Sunday, it's 6 degrees. So it's a good thing we haven't changed out of our winter tire. Okay. Because I'm here. It says Friday, 2nd of May, low 8. So
Hmm.
even in May, we can't take off the winter tires.
You can't, there's actually a law about that.
Yeah, if you have an accident, blah blah, and it's less than 10 degrees and you've got summer tires on, you're in trouble.
Interesting. I just learned yesterday that Germany also has a law that I find strange, and that is that you have to get approval for baby names.
Yes, and I can think of a few countries, the US, where that would be very good because in all honesty, some of those names, the parents, oh, that's such an interesting name. Yeah, and your poor kid's going to have to wear it for the rest of its life.
Yeah, in Germany, the goal of the law was to prevent children from enduring unnecessary ridicule due to poor choices by the parents. And but they do allow, a wide variety. If you're, tied to, say, the Muslim culture, you want to name your kid Muhammad, no problem. Depending on where you're from, you can choose the name, but you can't choose something that would put them up to ridicule. What was interesting is that if it is a family name, they have no problem with the name Adolf. it's still allowed.
But yeah,
But
of course.
they, yeah, but I would have thought they retired the name after, one particular Adolf. But if you go to the website, it says, we suggest referring to the child as Dolph for a nickname. Then I went a little further and looked up Dolph Lundgren, the American sort of action movie star, and his name is Adolf. And he just
But
goes by Dolph.
you know, they should retire Heinrich because Himmler wasn't a nice guy.
Yeah, but they haven't retired it either. But what is the
Exactly.
most popular baby name in Berlin right now for men?
For
This
men,
was,
I have no idea.
come on, make a guess.
Heinrich?
No, Wolfgang.
Oh, Pudsey. I like Wolfgang. Wolfie.
I like it too. It's not a common name in the US, although Valerie Bertinelli did name her son Wolfgang, and she calls him Wolfie.
Yes, her son with what's his name?
Eddie Van Halen.
Yes, Van Halen.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
had a lot of husbands, fathers, whatever, but she's an interesting woman. She's America's sweetheart. And I think that's sort of a trap for any woman as an actress to be a sweetheart, because if you vary outside of what the perception is that you should be, then people judge you very harshly. When she gained weight, she went through a lot of ridicule. When she did any unsweethearty things, she's had a lot to deal with.
Wasn't
Well, the
she
prison.
in the Mickey Mouse Club?
No, she was in a TV show called One Day at a Time.
I love that show. But I thought she came from the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yep.
No,
No, that
I
was
love
Britney
that show. And
Spears.
she was in it when she married Van Halen.
Hmm. And then she went on to do a TV show with Betty White called Hot in Cleveland.
That was great.
That's the one that I watched because I love the four actresses, and I love
Me
the
too.
premise. Women who were aging out of Los Angeles but were hot in Cleveland. I thought it was so telling of the way society treats women, especially in the US.
Yeah, that's a great show, Hot in Cleveland. Yeah. Plus, it has the unbelievable added advantage of starring Betty White
I know.
in like one of her last shows or something,
It
where
was
she,
the last show where she was a regular, yeah.
yeah, where she is in her, I don't know what, late 80s, early
No, no,
90s.
no. Mid-90s when the show was
Yeah.
canceled.
And
Mid-90s, I think 95.
sharp as a tack. I
Mhm.
mean, just fabulous.
Betty White, I believe, would still be with us if it weren't for the lockdowns. The lockdowns meant she couldn't work. She had to be alone. She was one of the most social, active women on earth. And to tell her to stay home was like giving her the death sentence. And I know that was true with a lot of older people. It was like, life isn't fun anymore. My world got small. What do I have to live for? And I really believe if she had been able to continue working, she would be with us.
Yeah, she was fab. Now, she was America's sweetheart.
Yes, she was. And another America's sweetheart. We've gone off travel, but that's okay, listeners. You stay with us through everything. Carol Burnett, who's
Yeah.
got a second season of her new show. Here she is, 93 years old, and she's filming the second season of Palm Royale.
Of what?
Palm Royale.
Oh, I don't know that.
Oh my goodness. It is hysterically, ridiculously over the top funny. Allison Janney, um, Carol Burnett, oh, what's her name? That woman who played Stephanie in the New Heart show,
I only
Julie,
know that.
Julia, Julie, let me find. The Bob Newhart show, the second one.
Question: where do you watch it on?
I have a DVD.
Okay,
Um, did you ever see the second one it made in the 80s?
I don't know. I don't remember. Probably, but I don't
He
remember.
ran an inn in Vermont.
Oh,
Stephanie Vander Kellen, Julia Duffy. Julia Duffy is in it, and she's brilliant. Laura Dern is in it. It's this great TV show, and Carol Burnett plays a wealthy, wealthy matriarch, the sort of the creme de la creme of the country club set, who had a health problem and was, comatose for a while, but has come back, ripping and roaring and destroying the town. And now it looks like she may be a fraud. She may have been um, the caretaker of the woman that she replaced, and she isn't really a rich heiress. There's a lot of suspicion around that. So she might have set herself up as the creme de la creme of the country club set based on a false identity. So season 2 will reveal Carol's identity. But she's been having a great time, and they gave her costume after costume to wear, and she loves her costumes. She's as funny as ever. I love that here she is in her 90s, and she's not that she's a supporting character. She's not the star. They asked her if she wanted to take the central role, and she said, "I don't want to work that hard." So she can do her scenes in 2 days a week.
she was in the second Hawaii Five-0.
Carol Burnett,
Yeah,
she was.
she played the main character's aunt.
I thought that was Better Call Saul.
No,
Well, she was in
Hawaii
Better Call Saul playing the character's aunt.
uh Hawaii Five-0. Well, you look it up because you don't like it when I use my phone.
No, because then you go quiet on it. You
I
can't seem to talk and use your phone at the same time. But
Hawaii
yeah,
Five-0
I will
cast.
check. Uh,
She will be somewhere on there. Uh, I'm pretty sure.
I don't put your phone down. I can see you
Yeah,
looking at
Carol
it.
Burnett. Carol Burnett played Deborah whatever Mc something. Yeah. She
Um,
played Aunt Deb.
and she played it also an aunt in Better Call Saul.
Well, there we go.
So here's a woman in her 90s who is
Yeah,
still working
yeah.
and having a great time doing it. She doesn't want to work too hard, but she wants to work. And
Oh, it's on the Apple TV. Palm Royale. I have Apple TV.
well, it's worth watching. I mean, it's a mess of a script, and things keep changing. You can tell it was written by a committee of, Hollywood types, but it's still very funny with very engaging performances.
Well, that's good enough for me.
It's highly entertaining, and the costumes and the wigs are out of this world.
Yeah. I started watching a show on Apple TV with Jennifer Aniston
The
and
morning show.
yeah, the morning show.
Mhm.
And I thought it was pretty good. And like a lot of other shows, it started going a little bit weird. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to read ahead, see where it goes, and if I want to continue watching it. So I did, and
Mhm.
it totally went out into left field. So I thought, nah. So I didn't watch it. It's a little bit like the thing that I have on my Facebook that says my life feels like I'm on the fifth episode and the writers have run out of ideas and are going completely crazy. Um, it's just like Homeland.
Oh yeah.
I watched the first, I think, episode, maybe the second, and then it totally went out into left field. And I thought, nah, that's not me.
There's a lot of television shows that do that. And one of them was one of my favorite series ever on BBC was Life on Mars. Did you ever see it?
No, I didn't.
You would love it. It's about a policeman who is in an accident, and he is both in the hospital and living in a different decade at the same
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And we're trying to figure out what is there, why he's there, if he's there, or is it all just his imagination? You have to watch both series to get the answer. I won't tell you the answer, but it's not what you think it is.
Mhm.
It was not what I thought it was. So it's life on Mars followed by ashes to ashes, and ashes to ashes resolves it. And ashes to ashes takes place 20 years later. It just brilliant, brilliant television. So America did a remake of it, right? And this ending was complicated and shocking and brilliant to the original series. And in America, they changed it. So they have this police person going back, but then it turns out that he was really on a spaceship to Mars, and they were just feeding him artificial memories in order to make him pass the time pleasantly. The stupidest ending I have ever seen in my life, with this great buildup, and then they just change it. Well, this was what we wanted to do from the beginning. Why? Why would you take something that was conceptually brilliant and turn it into something stupid?
Well, when they made the film Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley, um, they had to add an American ending where um, Elizabeth is with Mr. Collins. No, not Mr. Collins. Sorry, of course. Is with what's his name?
Colin Firth,
Darcy.
Darcy.
Darcy. Elizabeth and Darcy are having a nighttime picnic on an island uh, um, by his castle to show that they are in love and together and everything, and it's beautiful and romantic. Because in the film version, that ended much, I think, like the book, it's just that he goes in the office to ask for her hand in marriage,
Mhm.
and that's the end of it. And so they had to make it for American audiences to understand that it was a happy ending.
I don't like that at all.
You should watch sometimes the look it up, American ending of Pride and Prejudice.
Well, they've done that with a number of films. I
A
mean, I've
number of
learned
things.
that. And many times scenes were cut out for American audiences that they couldn't handle, would be offended by, et cetera, et cetera. It's almost like there was a massive psycho experiment to go, how stupid can we make a population? How can we program them and I think they really were programmed. I mean, we know about MK Ultra and all the CIA plans to program the American public. And I think they've done a very successful job. They're debating bullshit without looking at the real issues in that country.
Um, to be fair,
Why?
they have
Maybe
done
what to be fair.
a great job so far in turning the American people into blithering idiots, but nothing like they're about to do.
How can they make it worse?
Oh, well, they're certainly aiming for that. I mean, they are literally, I mean, what is it? 26% of Americans can't read or write, of American adults can't read or write.
Yep, that is correct.
Yeah. Um, oh, they're gonna try and beat that. It's I mean, what he's doing now with education is, like he says so well, tremendous. Tremendous.
Yeah, it's tremendous. It's tremendously bad.
Yeah.
Tremendously bad. I'm not a fan at all. I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, I said I think you should travel if you want to travel there and support the small businesses, at least right now. Same time, I'm a little concerned about going there myself. I'm going in July for a visit to San Francisco, and who knows? Hopefully, if they deport me, they send me to Germany, not El Salvador. But I'm flying with Milu. And I think that will be helpful, actually, because when you fly with a service dog, people tend to look at you with pity, even though they don't realize what he's for. And I think that might be a good thing to be flying into San Francisco with a dog.
I am going to completely avoid going to the US for as long as this nonsense is going on.
Well, I
Be-
can't because of my family.
Yeah, of
I've got too
course.
many people there. If
Exactly. But I can. And I have to because there may be some slight evidence somewhere deep in my Facebook page that I may be slightly anti Trump.
no, you have Trump derangement syndrome full blown.
Do I? Really?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not a criticism; it's just a fact.
It's a fact. It's an
Yeah,
absolute and complete fact
yeah.
that
I had hope that he would be different than we expected. I no longer have that hope. Um, I was
he
hoping.
has exceeded all my expectations by
In a sense,
miles.
yes, yes. Someone said right now the U.S. is in a competition to see whether 1984 or A Handmaid's Tale will be the dystopian future that they will live with. And, I think it's a mixture of both.
Absolutely,
Um,
I think as well. Yeah.
have you have you watched the television series A Handmaid's Tale?
No, I haven't.
Do.
I'm
It
not sure I
is,
want to.
I think you do. It's prophetic, but it's also hopeful.
Yeah, well, then in that case, it's totally wrong for the United States.
Well, no, no, no. Wait till you get to the end or the close to it. I think you might you might have a little hope, but I'm not. I don't want to give things away. What I love
Yeah.
about The Handmaid's Tale is that. Did you read the book?
Uh, Back in school in English classes in the 70s.
Okay, well, it's been a couple years. I've read it a couple of times, and the book is almost like a sketch. It is diary entries, and some of them are vague, but it's this horrible future where this woman is enslaved to provide babies for her leader, her master, and that's what the book is. And the book ends, and we don't know what happened to her. We don't know. It's all up in the air. The movie did a good job of elaborating on that. The television series has made the world even bigger and taken it further to the point where there is hope. The book leaves you feeling hopeless. The movie leaves you feeling kind of hopeless. The TV series leaves you feeling there's something we can do if we all are willing to. And so I think it's worth watching only for that. Also, it's really well done. And Elizabeth, whatever her last name is a brilliant actress, even if she is a Scientologist. Um, Elizabeth Moss. I'm not a fan of Scientology. I think it's just one of the many made up bullshit religions, but she's still an absolutely brilliant actress. The cast is knockout, every one of them.
Um, in the show that I was watching yesterday about apparently Adam says Tennessee people, and they were talking about uh, how wonderful it was that abortion was illegal, and
Okay.
it was a whole bunch of women talking about how wonderful it was that abortion was illegal. The thing that bothers me
Wow.
about that is that their sole concern, sole, only, exclusive concern are the 9 month of conception of the child
Right. And then after the child's born, they don't care anymore.
at all.
I know
Couldn't
that
care
is long
less.
problem. There are so many kids in group homes, foster homes, orphanages, and then there's also children who are trafficked for sexual reasons. All of these
And
kids
they
just need a
couldn't care
little
less
hope.
about that. This is
And
so, yeah,
my
whatever.
feeling is, I don't care what your sexuality is, what your couplehood is. If you can take a child and you're a loving person and not a crazy person or pedophile, you should absolutely be given a child because there are so many. Group homes are filled with kids, especially males. Males are considered unadoptable by about 8. And then at 18, they become part of our homeless population because with no life skills, they dump these kids on the street where they turn to thieving, drugs, sex work, whatever they can. And I mean, imagine you're 18 years old, you just graduated high school, it's your birthday. The foster home has a birthday party for you and says, okay, now you're on your own. Well, what do I do? You move
But
out. Where do I
it's
go?
yeah, it's exclusively the control of the woman.
Yeah. And I think that is the ultimate goal of many governments, not just the US, is to control women. And I'm sick of it. This is something that I object to in Muslim culture. I mean, I have many, many friends and I visit these countries and I love them and I love the people in them, but women are controlled. Now, the women there often will tell you, no, it's my choice. It's not your choice. You were brainwashed from infancy to make this choice. Therefore, it's not a choice. A brainwashed woman cannot make a choice.
I'm so glad you said all that.
Okay.
It wouldn't have looked good if I'd said all that
Why?
because it would have looked like I was being discriminatory
Towards brainwashed women?
towards religion. But I'm glad you said that because, yes, that is my issue as well.
You can't make a choice when you're brainwashed. When I was a little kid, they were brainwashing me. Fortunately, I had the strength of will to question everything and move away from it. But I remember being a little kid and I was terrorized by the idea of going to hell and being hung upside down and being gutted every day, healing overnight, only to be gutted the next day, having the devil poke me with a hot fork, all of this for quote unquote being a bad boy, whatever that meant. And, religion terrified me, but so did eternal life. I didn't want eternal life. It's like when this is over, I have to keep doing it. How horrible would that be? And so I started questioning everything. And it was finally when I read the entire Bible cover to cover, and I realized, well, first of all, the God in the Old Testament bears no resemblance to the God in the New Testament. So this Judeo-Christian thing is a lie. It's clearly two completely different gods. And then I read the Talmud and I read the Quran, and I thought, okay, it's a whole bunch of different gods, all of whom have been created to meet the goals of the warmonger politicians at the time, or the priests at the time, or the rabbis at the time. None of this can possibly be real, because if it were, why would we have so many books all claiming to be the word of God?
To be fair, to be fair, I believe that these books were less religious and more lawful. In other words, they were the book of laws before we had book of laws. Because if you tell someone, don't steal your neighbor's cow, why
Right.
not? Because it's not good. Okay, but I want my neighbor's cow because it has more milk than my cow. Yeah, but it's not good. Well, the Bible says that if you steal your neighbor's cow, you will be struck down by God above because he's all seeing and all knowing.
At the same time, the Bible says, go and kill the Canaanites and take their cattle. So it's all of, there's so many instances of God commanding people to steal, rape their women. If there are virgins, you may marry them, kill the men, kill the babies. I mean, so it contradicts itself from the first chapter on. Here are the laws. Now here is God ordering you to contradict all of the laws. Children, stone them to death if they're disrespectful. Can you imagine being a parent and stoning your own child to death for being disrespectful? A sharp word maybe, but stoning them to death?
Well, to be fair, there's quite a few kids now I see nowadays that I'd like to be addressing more than a sharp word to.
Yes, but you don't want to stone them to death, do you?
No, I'll
No.
stop. I'll stop before that.
Yeah, stop before stoning them to death. I think that's a wise thing to do.
Yeah.
Um,
But I'm afraid to say that when it comes to respect your elders, well, that went out the window a few decades ago.
you know, no. I have to say that in some cases, no. Yes, there's a lot of people who are raised that way and who do behave that way. But I had a great experience yesterday. I had, two suitcases, a backpack, and a dog. And I get onto a very, very crowded train. And this young man comes over and starts moving my suitcases for me and gives me his seat. So he helped me get settled and then he put Mito on my lap. So, and that was a young man, probably 15, 16 years old. And he
Yeah.
saw that it was a struggle for me to stand there with the dog holding onto the suitcases with wheels that wanted to run away. And he immediately jumped up to help.
Yeah. There are people out there that sometimes restores your faith in people.
Yeah.
They
So
really are.
that was a really, really good experience. And he then, when a seat came open, he started talking to me. He was practicing his English. And I wanted to practice my Spanish, but yeah, he'd given me a seat so we could practice English. And I learned a lot from him. Very smart kid.
So you've left Seville for good.
Yeah, I'm done. I go from here to Istanbul, Istanbul to Berlin.
So when are you back here?
May 2nd.
Oh, it's really around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a chef in Istanbul I'm going to talk to, and I may open Istanbul.
I saw
And
you were looking for one.
yeah, I've got somebody that I'm very hopeful about. And so we may open Istanbul next.
So why aren't you staying a bit? So is Seville running now? Do you have people there?
Zhao took over. I have a chef that took over Seville. It's running.
Okay.
Not
And
people, one person.
sorry, dear.
Just one person in each city.
Okay. So it's the chef's tour, chef apostrophe S.
The chefs around Europe tours. The
Okay.
tours are run by the chefs, but it's thecheftour.com online. But yeah, the chef tours, I should say, online. Yeah, so we have Seville running, we have Paris running, Berlin will soon be running, and Istanbul may be running.
So it's just one chef in each city.
One chef in each city. You get the chef.
And
And
the
that
chef takes you on a tour.
takes you on a tour, cooks for you, depends on the city. Each city defines itself.
And aren't they working as chefs?
PJ is working as a chef. He owns his own restaurant. He does this during the day. His restaurant is open at night. Zhao in Sevilla is no longer working as a chef. He did it for 7 years, and he is leading the tours and doing another type of job entirely now. And our gentleman in Turkey does not have a restaurant currently and would rather be doing this. So that's why he contacted me.
Oh, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for when I expand, and what I'm saying, ideally, it's for someone who is retired or semi-retired, or who has their own restaurant, because it's not the kind of thing where you want to quit a job if you're making 100,000 a year. Not that chefs make that in Europe, but you don't want to quit a good job to do it. But it's great for someone 60, 65 years old, wants to walk, be active, still has the knowledge and the passion, but can't stand in a kitchen all day.
Like you.
Like me. I have an anterior implant in my foot, and I can walk for hours. I can't stand for very long. I have to keep moving.
So do you have anyone in Berlin yet?
Me,
Yes.
me.
You.
I'm the chef in Berlin. I'll be doing those tours. I'm it. No other. You do Berlin, you get me.
You could do worse.
I'm good at it. And I will be preparing for all the guests a multi-course meal. So I'll be back in the kitchen all summer long.
Do you have any tours booked for Berlin yet?
Oh God, yes.
Ah,
Remember, I'm only doing 6 guests maximum. So I have weeks that are already sold out and I haven't done a tour yet.
not bad, kiddo. Not bad.
And I have several people who've sent notes to say, is it okay if we bring your books and get them signed? Which I love.
Yes,
Yes, of
indeed,
course it
indeed.
is. Yeah,
How are
yeah.
you doing on the next book in terms of
Um,
publishing? And
you
how are
know,
you
the,
doing on the
the
writing?
the editor went over it, and there were very, very few changes. 8,000 words need to be added. So
You still
I
haven't added the 8,000 words?
well, in the editing, I added about 3,000 words, and then in the editing lost about 2,000.
Oh,
So it's I need 8,000 words, and I've figured out how to do that. And I have started book 4, and the title I'm absolutely in love with, which is The Disappearance of Gene Spangler. Do you remember that case?
it sounds familiar.
October 8th, 1949, actress Gene Spangler disappeared. She she'd been involved with Kirk Douglas, and the belief is she was pregnant with his child, and she had left a note for him saying, "I'm seeing Dr. Scott today," and then she was gone. No trace. Her mother, her daughter, her ex-husband, no one ever heard of her again. They There's all these theories about what happened, that she was killed by the mafia, that she was killed by Kirk Douglas, that she was killed by the studio system. I decided to give her life. So I'm not letting her die. I'm taking her somewhere else. She will arrive in New Orleans 3 days after her disappearance, and Detective John Evans is going to aid her in her next life. So I don't want to give it away, but I'm really happy about it. I've done massive research into Gene Spangler. Fascinating, well, quite a good actress, quite a good actress. She didn't get a lot of opportunity. Her parts were small, but she could go from type to type to type. She was one of the studio actresses. They had to learn the accents, they had to learn dancing, singing, do this on cue, do that on cue. She was really quite good. And I think if she'd had the opportunity, she might have been a name that we would have heard of. And I just wanted to give her a happy ending.
Fair enough. Definitely fair enough.
So I think you'll like this one. And then I'm also in the process of finishing editing Filthy Blonde, which was the first book I wrote, the first book I
I
sold.
remember.
Publisher went out of business. So I've got 7,000 notes on that, and I'm doing the editing. So I'm a busy guy these days. Yeah, between the radio show, the books, the tours, the trying to live life, and take care of this little pup. I'm not bored ever.
No, I'm not bored ever either. Oh, did I tell you? I think I forgot to tell you. We've been registered as Liquor Germany.
Oh, I know. You tell me.
Okay, good, 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 good.
Yeah, and we now have a Lycra. For those of you who heard the episode on Lycra, and even those of you who did not, is now has a page on LinkedIn, correct?
Yes, we have a page on LinkedIn. We have a page on Facebook. And I am interviewing somebody at 2 p.m. for a press coordinator position.
Okay, that would be
Volunteer.
great. That would be great to have that.
Yes, because I've sent one press release, but I haven't heard back, so I must have goofed. So,
Well, that doesn't know. Everybody gets thousands of press releases. Um, they ignore most of them, unless it's sent by a press agent that they like. They they tend to just ignore them.
yeah, okay, well,
That's why people pay press agents, uh, because they know they can get something planted.
well, maybe we'll have to do that because we
Uh,
have to go out.
But if does this person you're talking to have experience as a press agent?
Well, that's what I'm going to find out. I mean, I had a look at his CV and it looks pretty good. So
That,
Nigel and I are going to meet up at 2 o'clock at Coffee Drink Your Monkey. But I am searching for a press coordinator for LICRA. It's a volunteer job, and you have to have perfect English and perfect German because that's the one thing we don't have.
yeah.
So if anybody wants to volunteer for this position, please feel free to contact us at info@licra.de. LICRA, LICRA.
And do they have to live in Berlin, or can they live elsewhere in Germany?
They can live anywhere as long as they have internet and perfect English and German.
All right.
Actually, good English and perfect German is what I need. I don't need a perfect English because we all have perfect English. So
It's
I need
it's it's
perfect
that's the
German.
hard thing to find, is the perfect German. That means you've got to get a native who, you know,
Yeah.
they can be hard to track down, who have the time and the inclination. But if you don't find somebody, I may ask just in my building, because all of the people in my building are retired, but they've all had all kinds of interesting careers. I'm one of the few people who lives there and works. That and the guy from India next door, we're the ones who work. Everyone else is retired, and they're from um, the days of the Iron Curtain.
Hmm. What did I want to say? And now I forgot. So it doesn't matter because I'm a
Okay,
goose.
that's all right. Um, we could say Milu is sleeping on my lap now. Can we? There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Little boy.
Well, here, look, I turn around
Oh, cozy.
and we have a cozy sleeping on my lap.
How is your walking doing since your leg break? I know that you had a lot of rehab. Are you walking pretty
Yes,
easily now? Much better, or not quite
yes,
yet?
much better because I had a physiotherapist and I walked, he said walk, so I walked and he said, okay, so I'm going to have to teach you how to walk again. So he did. Because what I was actually doing more than anything was just dragging my leg along rather than walking. So he went heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe.
Mhm.
So now I do heel, toe when I walk because
And
I
it's been
wasn't doing that.
difference, right? Yeah,
Yes, made a huge difference.
it's shocking how long it takes to get your strength back.
Mm.
Um, I remember when I got my foot implant, I was 2 years on crutches doing rehab before I was really, you know, it was two surgeries, and then I took a long time to walk and walk well again. Now it's hard to keep me down.
The thing that I find that I'm not very good with is fear more than other things. There are certain things that I don't do out of fear. Um, Not out of fear of pain because that's there anyway, but out of fear of falling,
Okay.
you know. So I find that for that, I can't think of anything right now, but if I think of anything, I'll let you know. But
Hmm.
it's the fear of falling that I have.
Well, that's why a lot of old people start using walkers, not because they need the walker, but because they need to, they have a fear of falling. And when you're older and you fall, it's pretty devastating, especially for women.
Now, I think I remember what I wanted to talk to you about, but that I did want to talk to you about, so I'll talk to you about it.
Okay.
Michael, my luthier,
You're luthier.
yeah, who makes guitars.
Oh, yes.
Well, he came over the other day and we were chatting and he says the one place that would be very good for me is South Korea. Or actually, yeah, South Korea.
Hmm.
And I said, well, we have a lot of listeners in South Korea, I believe.
Do.
So he said he'd come next week.
He'd come next week to talk about South Korea?
Well, to talk about his business of making guitars.
I would love that. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
We can, yeah, we can do that. But why did he want you to go to South Korea specifically?
I don't know. He did some business research and he said South Korea would be great. And I said, well,
For your walking, for what?
making guitars.
Oh, okay. He wants to go to South Korea himself.
No, he wants orders to come from South Korea.
Okay, okay. I thought he wanted you to go to South Korea.
No. That's a completely different subject.
Okay. I love South Korea. I've been to Korea. Yeah, that's another place in Asia I've been. I've been to South and North Korea.
Yeah. Well, let's concentrate on South Korea.
Actually, North Korea was fascinating.
I'm sure.
You know, I had a handler. Everyone does. It just you have a handler. But fortunately, my handler was a female, and I was able to escape her by going into all male environments.
That's a good one.
And I had two phones. They make you check one of your phones, but I had an off line translator for Korean to English on the other phone, and I was able to actually talk to people.
It's a good thing you weren't arrested. And after this conversation, I wouldn't go back.
To North Korea, I don't want to go back. Yeah, you know, it wasn't something I loved, but I went there only because I was able to, and because I was able to, I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see it for myself.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
And it wasn't as bad as I expected, nor was it great. I was able to talk to men in both the Korean baths and the barber shop, two environments women are not allowed. And I had a female handler. She didn't know I had a translator, so she assumed I would be, because really, other than a few words they picked up from a movie, no one speaks English. In North Korea, it's not taught in the schools. Kim Jong-un speaks it, but he had tutors. People are not starving to death eating their dogs and children. That's the propaganda. They don't worship or revere Kim Jong-un. They pretend to worship and revere Kim Jong-un in public because it is required by law.
Yeah.
They had a lot to say about him that they did not like and they did not support. They do get a lot of rice from China because they cannot produce enough rice to feed their population. They have very harsh and long winters, and rice needs a different climate to grow the way it does, say, in parts of China and Vietnam, etc. So they get rice aid from China. So they do get some food aid from China, but it's not as bad as we've been told, nor is it a great place. I would not want to live there. People are heavily, heavily controlled. I would not call it a communist government. I would call it a totalitarian government.
I think the only people who call it a communist government are Kim Jong-un.
Well, the press refers to it as communist.
Yeah, but
it's not
we
communist.
know that all communist governments are totalitarian governments.
It's totalitarian, very much totalitarian. But I'm glad I went 3 days. I went as press, even though I never wrote about it, because I was doing a lot of writing at the time. And so I was able to get in as press. And I'm glad I went. It's the same, with going to Moscow. And I realized that was largely propaganda. Same thing. They weren't standing in bread lines. They were standing in lines to see movies. They're not that different than we are in Moscow. And they had really rough times during the communist era, which was totalitarian, but they weren't starving to death, which is what we were always told in the West. My school, they're starving to death. They're standing in bread lines. The problem was not enough food. Russia produces massive amounts of wheat and cabbage and carrots and apples and pears. The problem was selection. The food was very boring. You could always get something to eat, but it wasn't going to be very interesting or certainly not what the oligarchs were eating. You were eating cabbage and carrots and potatoes.
Yeah. Well,
Not my diet of choice.
no, but healthy.
Yeah, I think a little bit more protein would have gone down better. Oh
True.
boy. Oh, I had to shift position, so I had to shift my dog. He goes into dead weight and he doesn't even move. I move him around and he just goes, okay, whatever. He doesn't even notice.
Yeah, but he's certainly with you.
Oh my, yeah. He's such a good traveler. Such a good traveler. The railway station, the metro, everything. And he walks into a new apartment and goes, okay, I live here now. And he's fine. As long as he's with me, I could take
We
him
have the
literally
same
anywhere.
thing. We have the same thing with him. He's been on boats, planes, trains, obviously the car. I've just booked the ferry for a night from Ancona to Split with Cozy.
Nice. Ah, yeah, I think that traveling with animals should be an easier thing to do than it currently is. Um, Fortunately, Mino's a service dog, so when I got here, I just showed her the identification, no problem. I think she would have let him in anyway, but you know, the identification helps. So I'm staying in a nice place that, welcomed him. I have the same situation in Istanbul where because of all the political protests, I think I told you this, I'm only paying the cleaning fee for the apartment.
Oh, nice.
No one's traveling to Istanbul right now. It's no man's land. It's gone code red from US travelers because of the political protests and the quote fear of violence. I'm not particularly afraid of violence. It can happen anywhere, so I'm not going to avoid a city. And the political protests, I understand. You have the mayor of Istanbul, who is progressive and interesting and believes in everybody having the same rights, compared with the dictator. And they're running against each other.
That's a really nice thing to say just before you go there. I sure as hell hope that nobody in Turkey is listening to this show.
It's okay. I'm sure. I mean, I have cousins who sometimes listen. They know that they live under a dictator, and the dictator calls himself. He says this is what he is. Everyone knows that that's the political system. So that's why the protests are so, mostly in Taksim, are just so enormous. They want to force his resignation, and it can be done. You can make things happen if you really push, 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 push. It's never easy, and governments don't yield easily anywhere on earth.
No, I'm guessing a dictator wouldn't yield easily, would he?
No,
No. Well,
no.
well, look at what's happening in the US where he's trying to get a third term, if not a fourth.
If that happens, then I'll have to tell my mother I can't. I can't. I can't. Let's Zoom. I can't. Although who knows if how much longer she'll be with us. Will she make it to 115? I don't know. That was always my prediction for her. 115, and the way she's going, it's possible.
Yes, I have the same thing with my aunt, as you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
who's
There's
who's
still a fire.
92 and doing just fine, just fine. She's coming to my sister's birthday party in Croatia again this year, you know.
Yeah, which goes
So
back to Carol Burnett still working in her 90s. All right.
exactly.
It's time to say goodbye to all our humble friends. Check when we get off the air our YouTube channel, see if you can log on, and then I'll try to log on again. I have good internet here, so I can upload all the past shows.
Absolutely. Good. Well, I
Right.
will do that and let you know. So bye everybody, and thank you for listening and watching.